Well, good evening and welcome to the FITT Show. I'm Bobby Kinzer.
And I'm Thomas Doty.
And that's the printer you hear in the background. This is the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. We are so glad you join us. We are here every week at the same time, and we want to make sure everybody is not on our archive show. So today is Thursday, June the 29th, 2023. How you doing today, Dope?
Happy to be alive, my brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing really good, man. I'm just so glad that we are here on our 107th show. Is that right? Yeah, 107. That's
Cool.
A hell of a milestone, Dope, you know. We've been rolling right along. Only missed, I think, one show, and that was for Christmas. So I'd like to welcome everybody around the country and around the world, because we got a lot of guests, Dope, from all parts of the world, especially my folks over there in the United Kingdom. So thank you all so much for joining us. Last week, we had a very interesting show, which was our prices beating you down. We talked a lot about, we talked about eating out, the cost. We talked about the cost of groceries and inflation, which is the biggest thing that really affects our money, especially your savings, because it'll eat into your savings. You might think you got a good savings, and don't be keeping that money under your pillow, under your mattress, because inflation eats through it. You might think you have enough. So wonderful.
Hey, Bob, and not to scare everybody, but watch out for your insurance bills, because some of these major catastrophes that have been happening around the country, a lot of insurance companies are struggling, and everybody's car insurance and homeowners insurance rates are going to go up like crazy. So just be on the lookout and be expecting it, because it's going to happen. In California, they're up like 40%. So yeah, and several states have just huge increases in insurance. So be on the lookout. Don't be surprised when you see that bill.
The other thing is, though, please take this one from me. Take this one from me. Watch how you're driving with all those speed cameras, because I was hit trying to pass this car and they caught me going 61 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, only because he was at the end of the block, right? And I was just trying to pass his car that almost ran into my lane. He didn't want to hear it. He gave me 2 points and $300. I took it to court, and just think, right now, though, obviously points on your auto insurance can raise your premium up $300 to $500. So a little suggestion: if you're driving and you have Waze that also lets you know where those cameras and police cars are, even if you're driving in the city. I drive in the city, though. As soon as I hit the city, I turn on Waze just so I can see where those cameras are, man. But
Sure.
Anyway, I took it to court, man, and I actually won. And they took it off. I was so glad. But you made me think about that, though, because the other thing is, you all very low. I'm talking about like 600 credit scores in the state of Maryland. It can increase your auto premiums by 40%. So, saying all that to say, be conscious of what you're doing. Be conscious how you're driving, because it seems like everybody's trying to get that little extra dollar out of your pocket, these days, and you don't need to be giving up no more money than you need to. Though this week's subject, man, is a great. I'm getting a lot of responses. How to build wealth and to keep it. That's going to be my interesting topic for today, you all. So call out Lottie, Dottie, and everybody, and share the Facebook Live link and YouTube. So, with that, let's start how we always start at the top of the show, with our favorite market, not the supermarket, but the stock market.
Yeah, it's been an interesting first half of the year. The Dow has been kind of struggling, but as you can see, it's up 0.5% in the past week. The NASDAQ, it's basically flat, but it's kind of taking a little breather. I mean, the NASDAQ is off to its best first half of the year in 40 years. So this has
Say that
been
again, Dope.
the NASDAQ is having its best first half of the year in 40 years.
Who would have thought that?
Well, I guess after last year, after the pullback and the inflation drops and all that stuff, and a lot of that is because of AI and all the positivity that's coming from that. And so it's been a great first year. So it's kind of taking a little pause now. You can see Microsoft is down for the week about 5 points. Tesla's down, but this is one we've been watching. I mean, Tesla's been as high as 300 and as low as in the hundreds. So this is one that's going to keep you up and down. Apple is still hanging around its all-time high of 190. It's up 3 points for the week, and Pfizer is just it's dying. But it's they got a couple of things in the pipeline that I'm hoping come through. They're coming out with a weight loss pill that should spur things up. And finally, NVIDIA, which I don't think it shows because of the banner, but NVIDIA's down a little bit for the week. And
You can't see that, Dope? I showed it on my screen. You don't see it?
no, the banner's blocking it.
Oh, my bad. I'm glad. Thank you, though, for reminding
Yeah.
me of that. Thank you. We don't need that banner. Thank you, sir. So sorry, people. We get that banner out of there. Thank you, Dope. Are we back there?
Yep, you can see what you can see in NVIDIA. Now, this is one that's crazy. It started the year at 147,
Whoa.
and it's up to 408. So it took a little pause this week, and it's down 22 points, but it's still up a tremendous amount for the year. Like I said, it's going from 147 to 408, and several analysts who follow this stock have actually raised their price target from 440 to 450. So I just don't see how it can keep growing faster than the market is growing, but it just keeps rolling. It keeps rolling. I got in at 170, so I'm pretty happy. And it's funny because it's one of those things we wrestle with of when to get out. And Bob and I talk about this often, and he has a philosophy of getting out when you can get your money back, your initial investment back, and then you're playing with house money. I always think about getting out and is there something else I would buy that's better than what I already have? And since I don't know what I would buy if I sold NVIDIA, I'm going to kind of let it ride for a while and see where it goes, because this AI thing is still in its infancy, and I just see tremendous growth there with NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Tesla. So I'm gonna hang in, even though I'm up on all three of those. I'm gonna let them ride.
Dope. That NVIDIA, once again, is a semiconductor, which is the microchips that run all the smart technologies. I mean, that's from smartphones to smart grids, electricity to smart grids, and transportation, water, gas, smart grids, and that's what runs those are semiconductors. And like I've always said, I also have a stock. I didn't buy NVIDIA, but I have its competitor out of Holland, which is NXPI, and that's up today $2. I got it at $90, and it's now up to $199. So those semiconductors, because they're in everything now, Dope. And AI, by the way, is going to be running things. Those are the data sets that are in those computers and that are generated by the semiconductors. So that's why it's important to consider those kind of stocks that are out there. The other one, Dope, is remember I told you I bought the supercharger company, a small company called Ozop. Now it's moving slow. It's like less than a penny. It's like 60 cents, but it's been moving, man. And it doesn't seem like much, but it's been moving. And with the infrastructure plan putting out about $20 billion for the infrastructure for the semiconductor type business, who knows, that might hit too. But these are just some ideas of things that me and Dope, have ventured into, and we're just sharing them with you. We're not saying that they're going to be any great breakouts or
Definitely not recommending, but this is just what I do.
yeah, we're just showing you. Yeah. That's all we
Kind of
just
funny
showing.
too, because you get caught up. You look at, you look at like selling NVIDIA, then you say, oh, I gotta deal with the capital gain because I haven't had it for a year. I think I bought
Oh,
it in November, and so I always like to hold something at least a year to get that capital gains.
I'm glad you said that, though, because that's the other thing that people need to consider.
Yeah,
Holding.
I mean, and that's what we talk about. There's so many things to consider when you talk about selling, and it's always your impulse. Well, it's going up X%. It's time to sell. But again, what are you going to do with the money if you do sell? What kind of opportunities do you have for it? What are the tax implications of selling? And so you have to think about all those things, and that's what we are trying to get folks to understand, that all the thought process that goes into managing money. It's not simple, but it's complicated. And Bob always said, you don't have to be a genius to do this, but you have to be diligent about working through it and thinking it through. So those are just some of the thought processes we go through when we buy stuff and are deciding when to sell it or when to hold on.
And though the other strategy I use too, other than take out what I put in and use the money, my other strategy is like what you said. I don't cash out a stock unless I need it for something. Like if there was a need, then I would take some of it out. But if I don't have a need, that's normally when another thing. My strategy, if I need it,
that's the difference between me and you. I'm more of a technical. I got to have a technical reason to sell it, and yours is more touchy feely. How you feel,
or need too. Instead of going into my 401k plan for the money, I'll take it out of this. And like I said, and like you said, I make sure I usually have held it for more than a year, so the capital gains taxes, hit it at 15 or 20%, as opposed to if you take it out within a year and you're going to hit with ordinary taxes.
Yes, you got to be purposeful when you think about what you're doing with your stock. So hopefully this will give you some things to think about. One, when you buy a stock, and two, when you decide to sell it, and all the things you got to think about. I mean, you got little things like Bob and I both retired and on Medicare, and so we have to play with the Medicare surcharge as your income goes up. There's also something else we're going to talk about later on, that 3% investment tax that you have to pay on investment income. And so there's a lot of things you need to think about when you buy stock. And so we're just trying to get you to think about some of these things so you can make good decisions and continue to grow wealth.
Today on the show, the company I consult with, the Society for Financial Education and Professional Development, we had TED Talks. The CEO of the company has quarterly TED Talks, and the quarterly TED Talks today was on the cost of financial illiteracy, and it was Vince Shaw, who is the CEO of the National Financial Economic Council, which I am a certified financial education instructor with. He talked about what people don't know, right? And the surveys they did based on like some of the information we were just talking about, people just didn't know. He said there were people that were still paying like 9% interest on particular items. That the interest rate dropped, like 2 years ago, and they've been paying 9% interest when they could have switched and got 3%, but they didn't know. So it's so important. But I want to go to my favorite market, which is becoming less and less more favorite, the cryptocurrency market. Now, it was been rolling there for the past several weeks, but now, as you can see, it's only up, about $2 billion. The total cryptocurrency market cap is at $1 trillion 214 billion. And the Bitcoin is still the number one cryptocurrency. It was rolling and actually slowed down, but still it's up $363, up from $30,042 to $30,405, just about at 1%. But that $363 change could mean a lot if you were in there. If you got in there when it was like, last year it went down to 16,000 per Bitcoin. So just think if you did get in. Ethereum, the smart coin, is only up about 1%. Excuse me, down 1%. And it's down about $28 at $1,851. Tether, the stable coin, which is pegged to the dollar, is actually down 1%. And that's interesting that's going down because it's usually tagged to the dollar, and usually that's letting you know what's happening with the dollar, because the dollar was going pretty strong there for a minute, but I think it's getting kind of weak. The Dogecoin, Elon Musk, and the guy out of Dallas, Mark Cuban, it's been just staying flat for a while. But those people that were in Shiba Inu, like me, it's tanking. Last week it was number 16. Today is at number 19. And it's staying flat. That's the meme coins where they use it's a dog, Indian dog, as their symbol, and people are investing in that. So, like we said, once again, cryptocurrency is highly speculative, and but as you can see from last year, as far as Bitcoin, which is the number one coin, it's been going up lately. So depending on when you got in, you could be doing pretty well with Bitcoin. So that's it for the stock market, you all, and the update on the cryptocurrency dope. So let's get into today's show.
Okay, and today's show is talking about building wealth and keeping it. And to set yourself up for success, you got to know what you want out, whether it's retirement, whether it's a long-term plan, whatever your goals are. And we always talk about getting a grip on your spending needs and your wants, and regularly reviewing, make sure you're on track. If you look back to the first half of 2022, that was one of the worst starts for the S&P since 1970. Okay, a lot of investors saw their portfolios drop by 15, some even 20%. And bonds, which even the safe people, the people who wanted to be safe were in bonds, they also experienced a significant decline. So
that's unusual, though.
Usually they run opposite, but in this case, they both went bad. And so if you were an investor and you're near retirement, it's a good lesson here. So the skills required to build wealth are different than those required to keep wealth. And so, you have a goal to build wealth. Now you need a goal and a skill set and some work you have to do in order to maintain it. And to accomplish this, you need a plan to address the following three things. You got to have your goals for wealth, whether it's retirement or whatever it is. You have to have your goal. You have to have a spending and investment plan, and then you got to execute that plan and adapt to any changes.
Wow, that's good information, though, because what people don't realize, it's building wealth is hard, a lot harder than what people think, and keeping it is even harder. It seems like every marketer is trying to get that extra dollar out of your pocket. Now, building wealth over time is a matter of following basic steps and sticking to them. Now, one of the first steps is to earn money, enough money, to cover your basic needs with some leftover for saving. Then usually the next step is to manage your spending so that you can maximize your savings. Then the third step is to invest your money in a variety of different assets so that it's properly diversified for a long haul. So today, we're going to start off by talking about some of the things that can help you, some strategies and help you in building wealth.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but it's worth revisiting just to make sure you know where we're starting from. And so if you're trying to build wealth, these are things that you need to know, understand, and be literate in. The first of those is understanding net worth. And that's simply your assets minus your liabilities. Okay. Then you need to set your financial goal, number two. Then think about where your income's coming from. We talked about saving money automatically, spending money consciously, paying off high interest debt. In an ideal world, you would be paying no debt. You have to have an emergency fund. You have to have an investment for your savings. As Bob always says, you don't put your money under the pillow. If necessary, you work with a financial professional if your situation requires that or needs that. And finally, and what we're going to talk about today is how to protect the wealth you build.
And that last one is pretty loaded because, protecting your wealth also is about, the insurances that you have, that you have out there because, your health. Believe it or not, a lot of people money get eaten up because of health expenses, and it eats through your wealth. I don't want to talk about another one right quick though. The top number one, and people miss this one when we say understanding your net worth. That's totally different than looking at your income that you make a year, or the pension money that you come. This no net worth is actually the snapshot of where you are financially. Income is just one piece of it, but your net worth is the most important picture because it gives you the full picture of where you are financially. And a lot of people get caught up on income and income streams, which is important. But understanding your net worth, which most people don't do, they don't sit down and calculate their net worth. Just because you got a lot of assets don't mean that your net worth is good, because if you got just as much or more liabilities, that don't matter. You can have $1 billion in assets, but if you got $1.5 billion in liabilities, guess what? You're not considered wealthy. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
and another way to look at it from an accounting perspective is your income statement is pretty much over a period of time. That's how much money you make, say, over a year. Your net worth is a point in time measurement of how much you have. Okay.
Good one.
And so that's where you are today, where your income is usually over a period of time. And so you need to understand that and make sure that's going in the right direction.
So the why of your wealth. I want to talk about that though. The why of your wealth. Now, the first step is the most important one. Now, individual couple needs to determine their priorities, including how they will enjoy the wealth they have built. Now, most people not only want to maintain their current living standard, but also spend money on new activities and exciting adventures while continuing to support their adult children and grandchildren. No, that's dope. I underlined that. That's, you laughed on that.
Oh yeah.
Notice I said continuing to support adult children. Because they may leave the house, but they may never leave your pocket. So the next step, and this is why we talk about goals and financial goals and things like that. But as you saw at the top, I talked about prioritizing, because first of all, it's all about your values. First you need to determine, what your values are, what's important to you. And then you need to start prioritizing them. And then the next step is to set goals based on your priorities. And that's an essential step in building wealth. Now, when you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve, you can create a plan that will help you get there. But it starts by defining your financial goals, such as saving, retirement, buying a home, or even paying off your debt. But remember, we said this at the top, and we continue to say this, and we say this all through our show. Remember, wealth isn't usually built overnight. It takes work. It takes time and consistency. This is especially true if your goal is to build generational wealth, which is when you pass assets down to future generations. Now, you don't need tons of money to start building wealth. So if you don't have much to start with, you can start with where you are, especially the young people who are staying, who are on the line today. It's not about, how much you got, is what you do, what you have. So you can start right where you are. Now, just want to discuss some of the common ways people choose to spend their wealth, which will allow us to determine and to develop a plan to meet them. A lot of people, my friends, dope, especially my friend out there, Eugenia, who calls herself the Travelnista. You got additional travel and vacations, and you need to plan for those. It's okay if you want to travel, but you got to make sure you're not what they call opportunity costs, right? You're paying for a vacation, but you're sacrificing your retirement fund. So you need to plan for those things. Contributing to a grandchild's 529 college fund. That 529 plans are great nowadays because they give you tax advantages and you can build the earnings and everything. And those 529s are great because you can do it for your child, your grandchild, and some of my friends got great grandchilds, and you could put money in there and see it build and get a tax advantage. Donating more money to a local charity, that's another one. A lot of people have charities they want to do, but you should plan for those. Prior towards that, because because the old strategy used to be divide your needs, and your wants, and you do your needs. But now they're saying make them all your wants. I mean, make them all your needs. But as you prioritize them, you probably get to all of them. But the ones that more wants, it probably fall down at the end of the priority list anyway. Or, a lot of people I know, especially now though, looking to purchase a home, so that's so important. Then the last one is leaving a sizable inheritance for your adult children or other family members. Those are things that we normally, look at what we want to spend our money on to create our wealth. And those are the things that affect our wealth.
Yeah, and we've talked about this subject I'm going to mention now, and that's making a budget, and that's just so important, and it's more important when you have built wealth because you got to keep your eyes on what you have and make sure you don't lose it and make sure it's going to sustain you. And so you have your goals laid out, then you have to develop a plan to pay for those items. But you also have to worry about protecting your portfolio. And so you have to walk that balance between being somewhat aggressive to make sure you're staying ahead of inflation, but at the same time, not being so aggressive that if the market reacts like it did, prior to this run up, that you aren't losing a sizable portion of your portfolio. And that's why you have to be diversified and you have to have some level of risk that you're comfortable with and make sure you have the money that's in risky stuff that you are able to sustain that loss and not put a cramp in your style. And so the trap some wealthy retirees fall into is thinking their assets will sustain them no matter what. And that's pretty easy to do, to think, okay, I got a lot of money and I can't lose it. But you have to have a budget to determine how much you're going to need to accomplish all the things you want to do. You just can't sit back and blindly say, okay, I got a lot of money, I can do everything. No, you can't. You have to be specific in what you want to accomplish, make sure you have money for that, and then go from there. And we can talk about examples. You could have a couple has $200,000 from Social Security and investment income. They got no mortgage, no car payment, annual living expenses of only $120,000, and they set aside $40,000 annually for emergencies and any home improvements they want to do. So the remaining amount they use to cover travel, their 529 plan for their grandkids. They donate to the church and other charitable donations. But they also may decide, well, let's buy a second home. And again, I got a whole lot of money, said I can buy a second home. But if you don't think it through, you can end up taking money out of your portfolio, which is part of what you're living on, and then you don't take into account other expenses that go along with owning a second home, maintenance, caring for it, traveling back and forth to it, lawn repair. And typically when you got a second home, you want to have it laid out just like your first home. So you got two really nice homes. And so if you have to take the whole spending plan into account and not just go out and do things that might end up putting a cramp in your total retirement income. And this is where if you need a financial advisor to help you lay these things out, then that's something you might want to consider. Or you can do it yourself, and it's just a matter of laying everything out on paper of what you're spending, what you have, what you want to accomplish, and make sure you can handle it. Now, where it gets tricky is when you are pulling money from a stock account or a account that is involved in investments, and the market takes a big hit. That's going to affect the amount of money you can pull out. And so you have to take that into account. And that's why you really have to walk that fine line between being aggressive, but not too aggressive. And so those are the kind of things you got to think about. Sit down, lay everything out, what you have, what you want to do, what it's going to take to get there. And another thing that we don't do, which we should do, is look at those projections over a longer period of time. And that's really difficult to do because, again, you don't know what tax changes are going to happen or what laws are going to change or those sorts of things. But you can at least base it on what you know now and lay it out and make sure you are okay 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And I've always recommended talking to somebody who's been through that situation and asking them, what were their pitfalls? What things would you do differently? How would you better prepare? Because when you go through something the first time, that's one of my sayings I always say to my kids: you can learn by listening, or you can learn by learning. And learning by learning is usually very painful, and you're going to make some mistakes, and everything's not going to go right. But if you get somebody who's made those mistakes, at least you can avoid some of the pitfalls that they've encountered. So find somebody who's been through what you're going through, who's looked, and when you look down the road, so they can help you navigate to get to where you need to be.
Dope. I just want to share with people when you're planning for retirement or when you're in retirement, whether you're planning for retirement, you're getting ready to go into retirement, and you're in retirement. One of the biggest tools that people really have to use is really taxes. It's like 4 buckets. And it seems like that's the biggest thing with retirement people is managing those 4 tax buckets: pre-tax, after-tax, tax-free, and then the bucket which is tax or income. It seems like people are, when you're in retirement or heading to retirement, those are the 4 buckets that you're working with the most to try to keep your taxes down and preserve your wealth. But Doug, I want to ask you a quick question, right? Because we're at the age that we've heard about budgets. People talk about budget. We talk about budgets. But Doug, do you have any idea why people still don't do it? Because a lot of people know it, but a lot of people try to hold it in their heads. And so a lot of people, why do you think people don't actually do budget? Because a lot of people know about it, but most of the people, they think budgeting is, holding it in their head and knowing, the bills they got to pay. But why do you think that people struggle with budgeting?
And I got this theory. You guys probably going to think I'm crazy, but I think it goes back to how you grew up and the fact that money wasn't discussed. I don't want to say intelligently, because that's not how I'm trying. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But it wasn't discussed as a subject that needs to be discussed as you were growing up. So it wasn't a priority. It pretty much, your parents in our generation, we didn't have conversations with our parents. At least
Right.
Your parents told you what to do and you did it. But I think now I watch my daughter and her husband with their kids. They talk about money. They talk about uh, we can afford to buy this. We can't afford to buy that. You can have this or that. They talk about future. We didn't do that growing up. And so that wasn't a part of our life. So that's not a part of how we operate. And again, I think I said this before, for most of us who grew up poor, most of the conversations about money was the fact that you didn't have any. And so and all you could think about, your whole focus was when you got some money, you were going to buy all the things you wanted to buy when you didn't have money. And we didn't look at money as we should of how can you use money to help you make more money. And that's really what we're trying to, the way we're trying to get you to look at money. So when it comes to budgeting, it wasn't a part of your life. It wasn't part of what you do. And it has to be now. And it's kind of funny. Dave Ramsey has this method of budgeting that I found to be pretty interesting, and it's called the envelope method. I think it's on TikTok.
Yeah.
And you pay all your fixed bills, your mortgage, your car notes, your insurance, blah blah blah, and then everything else, each specific category, you put that amount of money in an envelope. For example, going out for lunch, groceries, transportation, and you just live on what's in those envelopes. And once that envelope's empty, then that category is done until the next pay period. And the only problem I have with that is one, you guys know I'm a fool for using my credit card to get perks, and two, this is becoming a lot of places don't take cash anymore, and so you need a credit card in order to operate. Now you can do the same thing with a credit card if you're disciplined, but we got to find a way to budget because it's important, and you got to forget about what you've done in the past. And I've said this before, your situation now is much different than your situation was when you started or when you grow up. Your money situation is much more complicated than it used to be. Your parents didn't have to decide about a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA or where to put money to maximize the interest rates. This whole thing is much more complicated, and it's geared, this whole system, the game, is geared toward people with money and people who know how to use money. Right. And if you do, you're one of the winners. If you don't, you're one of the losers.
So Albert Einstein said one of the 7 wonders of the world is people who don't understand interest pay it, and people who understand interest earn it.
Yeah, so you have to take the time to learn and understand the basic principles of money management, and budgeting is the first step in getting your finances in shape.
Dope. So what I found with why people don't budget, like when I was growing up, people had so little money, they said you don't need to budget because they only got but so much money. But one of the things I tell young people, I ask them a question: when's the best time to start tracking your money? And they give all these different, when I get a job, when I get out of college. But the best time to track money is when you don't have any. It's not when you wait until you start getting money. And so that's why, and a lot of people don't, I feel, struggle with budgeting because some people are in such a hole emotionally. It affects them when they see how deep a hole they're in. And so they get paralyzed, analysis with paralysis. They get paralyzed because they feel they're so deep in the hole, they just give up. So psychologically it affects them. That's why I know some people don't like to look at the budget. And then some people don't want to look at the budget because they want to keep doing what they're doing. Confirmation bias. They want to do the things that make them feel good, So, but I just want to give this little historical budget that I learned from my sister, Gloria. I have never seen a woman in my life budget. She would squeeze the penny so tight, Abraham Lincoln would come off the penny. And she was budgeting back, when she was became a single parent, And I watched her and listened to her and some of the things that she would say she would do. And she was a budgeting guru, and that's a person I watched and listened to. And it's amazing what she did, especially coming up in the times of the 70s and 80s when things were really tight and they were taking away all kinds of interest write-offs, and Ronald Reagan with the trickle down economics was really affecting people. My sister Gloria, I learned a lot. I ain't never seen nobody work a budget like her in my life. So dope.
Hey, Bob, one more thing about that. And it used to be you could just save money and you would be okay. But
Right.
now it's so complicated with saving money and the tax system and Social Security and taxes on your Social Security and Medicare surcharges and required minimum distributions. There's just so many different facets of money management that you have to be literate to understand it, to navigate it, to make sure you're maximizing. Now, if you're just saving money, you're probably doing okay, but you won't have as much as you could have if you understand, as I call it, the game. And it's not by happenstance that the game is this way. The game is this way so certain people can benefit from it. And make yourself one of the people who benefit from it. Little things we've talked about, like holding stock for a year to get the capital gain, getting dividends that, some of which get excluded from your income, doing those little things, but you have to know to do those in order to maximize how much money you have. It takes some work to do this.
So I'm going to talk about executing your spending plan. So I want to change the whole topic, not the topic, the term budget. It's really a spending plan. And we need to start thinking at it just as that. So when it comes to actually putting your plan into action, that first few years of retirement are crucial for establishing good habits. And this goes back to what you were saying, Doe, as far as about behaviors. That's what I'm talking about, good habits, because the right wealth building habits, even in bits, can really result to great financial freedom. Like earning, savings, investing money these are very fundamental principles, which should find a strategic place in your mental wall. If you aren't used to living on a budget, it can be easy to spend more money than you have coming in. After settling into retirement for the first few months, once you're in retirement, you may decide it's time for an unplanned exotic vacation. Fun stuff, but it could impact other plans for your money. In addition, one of the more major life events could disrupt your plan. If either or both spouses become quite ill, which is a big thing now, health costs, we've seen that all the way across the South, though, in the United States emerges, draw a line through the middle of the United States. The South has the lowest credit scores, excuse me, has the lowest credit scores in America. And it's not, a lot of people thought because that's where a lot of the Black people are, which is one point. But the other point is, the major point is, healthcare costs is really affecting people's credit scores, their ability to pay their debts. So, some money may be needed for additional care and medical expense. So even if you remain healthy, you may need to care for a relative, or provide financial assistance to an adult child going through a difficult period. So that is so important, you all, in actually building wealth and keeping it.
Okay, and let's recap where we are now. We're talking about maintaining your wealth over the long haul, whether it's for retirement or for anything you want to accomplish. So we talked about the why your wealth and what you're trying to accomplish. We talked about making your budget, understanding it, knowing where you're going, staying within your budget and spending what you have within your plan. Bob just talked about executing your plan. And finally, the last step is revisiting your plan regularly. And that's whether we're talking about a short-term, long-term, or In this case, we're talking about maintaining your budget or maintaining your wealth. And you got to make sure you're on track by reevaluating it at least every 6 months. You may find you're spending a little more than you anticipated, or that you aren't spending enough. And maybe you can do a few more things than you thought you could, because you weren't spending as much as you could. I'm sure, for example, COVID cut a lot of people's spending plans short. So you should have had some travel money extra that you can do a few more things with. And so you've got the purpose of your wealth, you got a plan, you execute your goals, you'll be less likely to suffer a setback, and you can enjoy your money for a long time. And that's the goal we can all agree on. That would be a happy life for most people, if you can do those things and be able to do the things you want to do. And we always tell you, if you feel you need help with your financial plan, go get it, or ask somebody who you know knows. Or if you need a professional, make sure they're properly credentialed before you start dealing with them. But at a minimum, talk to somebody who knows, who can help you, because this whole thing's a moving target if you don't know. And so make sure you talk to somebody who knows what they're doing.
So, dope. I asked the question, do you want to be a millionaire? Now, most people probably do, but it is famously not an easy pursuit. The growing wealth gap between rich and the poor makes it seem impossible for most of us. Now, according to a recent Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report, millionaires represent less than 9% of the United States population. Even so, the same report notes that in 2020 alone, there were 1.7 new millionaires in the United States, according to the Business Report, who studied more than 1,000 millionaires for his book, The Millionaire Next Door. And by the way, you all, you need to go out there and buy that book. It's an excellent book, The Millionaire Next Door. It talks about how millionaires live and the average people live, and the average people live like they're millionaires, and the millionaires live like the average people. And 80%, though, check this out, 80% of U.S. millionaires are first generational rich. That means they didn't inherit their wealth, but built it. I have several friends that I work with who now have over $1 million in their 401k plans from their job. So this is not something that hasn't been done. Now, these statistics have made me, it really made me wonder, though, what it takes for a person to overcome humble beginnings and achieve the American dream. Now, what does it take to become a millionaire when you don't come from money, whether you aspire to become a millionaire or not? And no matter what path you choose, you can benefit from rethinking your relationship with money to increase your chances of making more. Now, money doesn't mean happiness. Me and Dope always talk about that. Let's get that straight. But wealth gives access to options and potentially a better quality of life. Now, we can't guarantee that some of the things we tell you, applying some of these tips, will make you a millionaire, but we can promise adopting some of these things will only benefit you on your wealth building journey. So with that, Dope, say once again, we said a lot. Let's go to the summary and takeaways. Here we go. Numero uno.
That's you.
That's me. Building wealth takes work. Like what I was just trying to explain. Don't let people fool you. You read some of these simple things. Say, "Oh, wealth building is simple. Increasing your assets is simple." No, it isn't. It takes work, and anything that it takes, effort, it's worth it. Just like I tell my children when they were going into school and some of the subjects, the careers they were going in was like really difficult. I said, hey, don't shun, the hard work. But building wealth, it takes work. And if you take the proper planning you too can build wealth and keep it.
And there are no shortcuts. We don't have a stock tip to give you to buy. If I told you to buy NVIDIA at 170 and you bought 500 shares, you'd still only be up 140,000 or somewhere around there. So there's no shortcut. It's little things, and we always focus on try to minimize everything you spend and maximize everything you earn. And over the long haul, you'll look up and you'll have some money. And it's little things, starting off by saving. There's nothing, I don't care. And you made the point, Bob, of start where you start, no matter where you are, no matter what you make. If you only make $500 a week and you save $50, when you get that bank account up to 200, from 50 to 200, you're going to feel good about that because you're going to see, wow, I started with 0. Now I got 200. And then you look forward to continuing to add to that. So it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and you look to build wealth over the long haul.
Man, dope. One thing that made me proud the other day, my daughter Melody came to me. She's working summer job. And she said, Dad, I made $48 on my savings account. I'm like, wow, just her thinking about it now was so great, man. But the next thing is to preserve your wealth. Now, that term is loaded because preserving your wealth is also a mindset, what you spending money on, how you are protecting your wealth, even from identity theft perspective. Also, I talked about earlier, the insurances to make sure, a lot of people take the lowest insurance for car insurance for bodily harm or personal injury. But nowadays, all these people with these big expensive cars and stuff, you might need to don't just be taking $50,000. You might need to get $300,000 coverage. This is things that help you preserve your wealth. That's the name of the game. Building wealth is one aspect, but keeping it is another.
And finally, enjoy it and be purposeful in enjoying your wealth. Figure out what it is you really want to do, save for it, and do what it is you really want to do. And enjoy the journey, obviously, but also enjoy the destination of having built the wealth that you want to have and enjoy your life.
So that's our recap for today, Dope. That was a lot of information. Next week will be our 108th show, which is so amazing to me. But we hope that we gave you a lot of good information and tips. And if anything, just something to think about. And we just want to thank everybody for tuning in, as you always do. So tune in next week. That'll be July the 6th. And we will have another good show, another great topic. So as we always do, we like to give out shout out to all our listeners. At the top of the list is Now. Dodie, what's up now? Thank you for tuning in. We know you don't have to be doing this. And my sisters, man, they are stalwarts, Linda, Nolia, and Gloria. Thank you all. And boy, Rodney Madison, Sr., thenotexperience.com. We thank you, man, for being so consistent and checking us out. And then my little brother, Carl Chapman. What's up, Carl? Thank you for tuning in. And as always, we got Joanne Skinner on. And guess who else we got today, Dope? Special guest, Taylor Doty.
Hey, my baby girl.
Yeah, tell us hello from New York, and thanks for the sound financial tips. I'm thinking about a spending plan versus a budget. Yeah, it does have a different connotation, don't it, Taylor? And Taylor, we thank you, and you up there in New York doing your thing. So keep doing what you're doing, and love you much. Thank everybody for tuning in. This is the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you next week. And please remember, to share this. Even after the show is over, you can still, it's archived, and you can go out there on Facebook Live and YouTube, and we replay the show and all of our shows in the past. You can go and look up by topic. So please share this information, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. And once again, my partner, Dope, you are the greatest.
Thank you, Bob. Feel the same